So finally, the question is, what factors are influencing wine prices? So besides the production costs for the grapes and the vinification and how to get it to the end consumer, there are further points that have an influence on the wine price. Fundamentally, there is the law of supply and demand. The producers should sell in the end the wine at a price that covers their production costs and furthermore leaves a certain profit so that you can make a living on it. People should be able to buy the wine they want at a certain cost they are willing to pay. So in general, said in terms of law of supply and demand, it's if the wine price is increasing, the supply is going up and the demand is going down. If the price decreases, the supply should go down and the demand should go up. But is that really the case in terms of wine? We'll see. So the demand in terms of wine, it's to be said that we have changes in the wine drinker's habits and preferences that have an impact on the demand. So there is the social factor saying that there are changes in terms of consumption habits due to health reasons, changes in preferences, the availability in terms of money. In general, it's said that in most European countries, wine consumption is going down. So the per capita wine consumption is decreasing. Furthermore, we have the economic factor, so the strength of the economy, fluctuations maybe in terms of currencies, maybe not in Europe that strong as it is between other countries, and we have certain market changes, like companies entering, whereas some others disappear. In the last decades, we have seen some economic crisis. Not all of them meant necessarily that wine consumption decreased. It changed a bit, so that you tend to go to a bit cheaper products or you find alternatives that are maybe not that expensive. Furthermore, we have an important driving factor here, the legislative and political factors. So we have laws prohibiting or limiting sales. In some countries, wine is just to be sold by the monopoly. It's not to be bought everywhere. We have policies to reduce consumption, to reduce misuse is more the idea here, but it tends like the pressure on the wine industry is getting more and more. So we'll see how it turns out in the future in terms of wine consumption. Taxation, not just on wine, it's also in terms of importing wine. This in the end, by increasing the total wine price, should lead to less consumption. At least that's the idea behind that. The supply is the quantity of the wine produced. It will have a significant impact on the supply level. That wine, for example, is a natural or nature-derived product. So we always have fluctuations between the different years, and it tends like climate change is making the extremes going to appear more and more often. So while a region is severely hit by late frost, you will definitely have less crop from that area. If a region is going through severe drought, for sure there is definitely less wine consumption, even though wine is a crop that can handle a certain extent of water lack, but there are further factors influencing the amount of production. So first of all, the area under vine, so how much viticulture area is there. In many countries, in many regions, there are restrictions on new plantings. An AOC like Champagne is at the maximum. It can't grow bigger, only in case they extend the AOC area, but not that easy. Then it's also the conversion of land to other uses. So in some areas, vineyards disappearing to be used, let's say, for construction, for roads, etc. But on the other hand, we have abandoned rural areas where viticulture is getting less and less and less. We have a technological development that helped to improve the productivity in terms of viticulture. Natural factors, I mentioned the case of frost, but also the drought as limiting factor when it is about wine production, and legislation setting maximum levels in terms of production capacity per land. And here at the bottom, you see the official number of the worldwide wine production, where juice and must is excluded, coming from the ORV. In general, it said the grape growing costs, including vineyard establishment and management. Here, labor and land are the major cost factors, but it's also the machinery and the equipment. Treatments like spraying, in terms of irrigation, even the water, energy, etc. here as well. The wine production costs, including the winery establishment and management. Here, once more, labor and machinery costs, additives that might end up in wine, water, in most countries not legally to be added in wine. That would be the cheapest measure, maybe, to increase the wine amounts. But in most countries, this is not possible. But cleaning, always going along with a certain water use in wineries. Electricity, it also has a further impact on the carbon footprint of a wine. Costs for oak barrels, etc. Packaging. Transportation costs, how does the wine get to the consumer while it is not just consumed locally? So is it going by air, is it going by land or by sea transport? And it may also include insurance costs, just in case wine is shipped over a longer distance. There are many, many points that can go wrong. Then the import cost in terms of duties and taxes, sales costs, labor, equipment, etc. Also, while you have store your wine for a certain time before sales, and then also quite important, the block in terms of marketing costs, including once more labor, packaging, design, marketing costs for campaigns, promotions, etc. So many further points necessary here. An important further point that you should understand is the margin on wine. So distributors will charge you always a fee that will add to the final wine price. So this margin is varying between distributors and markets, and it may range between 5 to 25%, while the traditional brokers that are generally just presenting smaller margin, those are between 2 to 5%. But it tends to sum up. You have a distributor, you have a broker necessary in some markets, so it's getting more expensive in terms of final wine price here. The retailers also need to have a certain margin. They usually get 30 to 50% of the final price, and wine that is sold in bars and restaurants is furthermore adding further costs. So 70% and sometimes even more of the final price is ending up for the owner of the bar or the restaurant. So that gives you a bit of clue what in terms of price, wine price ends to be there for the producer in the end, and how much of the margin is going somewhere else. While talking about wine prices, we should also quickly mention that besides the bit more ordinary wines, there is also a fine wine market. And especially that fine wine market also is used in terms of an investment. So you can make an investment on wine. That's, first of all, a good message. The fine wine market, nevertheless, is not affected by usual laws of supply and demand. So it's a luxury good in that case, and this tends to be a bit more complicated and not that transparent in all cases. So, and as wine is an investment, there are several ways to invest, and for sure there are also indexes indicating the development of the asset or of the wine in terms of its value. And one interesting example is the LIFX Fine Wine Index, and you see it in this picture down here. While following from October 2020 to October 21, we see compared to other economic indexes or standards like the gold price or like the DAX or the FTSE 100 index, that the wine price is tending to be a bit more stable but constantly going up. And this so-called LIFX Fine Wine Index is composed furthermore of 7 further indexes coming from further fine wine regions, like you get the 500 leading Bordeaux producers. Burgundy is included here, Champagne, Rhone, Italy, and the rest of the world. And all of the wine price developments of these fine wine producers are summed up, and that gives you a bit an indication where the fine wine market is developing. Is it going up, or is it fluctuating, or is it going down? So quite interesting also to see that wine is a way of an investment and that it can be a bit more stable, at least in this example, than some other indexes or other ways of investment. For me personally, for sure, also a way more interesting way. I'd like to thank you in the end for your attention. Thank you very much.